Hi everyone, we have yet another dead M1 Mac Mini. This is ticket 6724. This is a M1 Mac Mini that randomly stopped turning on after the Sonoma update. So this particular user forced it to DFU. It would not go into DFU, so it's not a firmware issue, but it's going to be really interesting to see what we find with this guy. So we're going to go ahead and pull this apart and see what's wrong with it. And as we went over before, the first thing we're going to do is check if we're getting power from the power supply. So I have 110 volts plugged in, and I am going to measure to see if we have 12 volts here, and we do. As always, it's a pretty rare failure that a switching power supply just drops dead out of nowhere. And we have a amber blinking light, so that's something interesting. So we have an amber blinking light here. I'm actually not sure what that means. We're gonna go ahead and look that up and see what problem that represents, because that does mean something. Okay, so essentially this flashing light essentially means firmware recovery mode. This machine will not enter DFU mode. I tried several times, it will not go into DFU mode, and with these M1s, that could be pretty much anything. This machine was pretty dusty, so we're going to go ahead and just take the board out and do a visual inspection. Maybe we'll see something, but definitely a quite unusual issue, especially after it presented with right after an update. So it does make me think firmware corruption, but we've had like 2 or 3 of these right after the update that had shorted capacitors on random rails, so maybe it's something like that. It's very strange. There might be some like firmware changes that are putting more load on certain circuits. I don't know, but let's get this board out and have a look. And bingo, not even 10 seconds of the board being out, I noticed this right here. And if we look at this, one, chips aren't supposed to have holes in them, and chips aren't supposed to have little solder balls sitting on top of them. So this is the CD3218B12. Now, I don't know if the CD3217 will work in this application, but guess what? We are going to find out. So we're going to go ahead and pull this off real fast and see if the footprint is the same. I'm pretty sure it is. In that case, we're going to put a CD3217 there and see if it works. My guess is it won't, but we've never tried, so we're going to try for the effect of learning. So let's go ahead and put a little flux down and pull this chip off. Could definitely see that scorch mark now. And that also explains why it would not go into DFU mode, because there is something wrong on our outputs here for our USB-C. That looks exactly the same as the CD3217's footprint, so maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but we will find out. Everything else looks good. Our other one looks fine. This probably happened because someone plugged something into the USB-C port that should not have been plugged in. Let's go ahead and get a CD3217 on here. Alright, and you guys could enjoy the humanized design ultrasonic cleaner, whatever the hell that means, because I have no idea. But anyway, here, let's go ahead and switch this off and plug it in. Our HDMI cable, this HDMI capture card always complains a little bit. And there you go. So it does turn on and it does boot with that removed, which gives me hope, because I mean, worst case, what we can probably do is, if we can't source, and the CD3218s are very hard to source, I will say that. But worst case, you lose one port, but it still works. It still turns on and still works. Good to know. You can remove that and it will boot, unlike the MacBooks that won't. Let's go ahead and get the chip replaced and see what it does. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to clean up our pads here, get some leaded solder in here, clean up all that lead free. There's like corrosion under here. See that stuff? It's like corrosion or a coating of some kind, and we need more flux. I always tell students, and they look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them you need to use more flux. You need to use more flux. Well, this is why, because you get bridges and other nasty stuff. So that should be enough. Yeah, there's like a film or something under here. It could just be from the chip exploding violently, or I don't see how it would get liquid under there. So I'm going to say just the residue from the chip spilling its guts all over the board. And I always like to wick these because the footprint is really funny, and if they don't sit flat, then you could run into some issues. I'm just going to wick this really nicely. Just like so. And that should be good. Let's clean this up. Let's get our new chip reballed and get it on the board. Alright, let's get some of this flux cleaned up. A little bit of acetone. Dissolve it right away. I do recommend acetone over isopropyl for flux cleaning. It just does a much better job, in my opinion, but keep it away from plastics, of course, so be careful. That's good enough for now. Alright, we have our chip ready to go. I'm going to put a little bit of flux down, so basically I'm just going to just touch a little bit in this area. That's plenty. That's actually too much. And we'll just kind of spread that out a little bit. We don't want it to run away, but this is already too much for BGA, but whatever. It'll work just fine. We're going to grab our chip. We are going to align it. Get our hot air. 430/60 should do. This is a really weird footprint, so just going to get it kind of close. And yeah, this happens a lot on CD3217s because of the abnormal footprint. Be right back. I feel like because the footprint is so weird on this, it always happens. Well, not always, but this happens a lot to me. I don't know if it's just I'm not good at what I do. I don't think so. I think I'm decent at what I do. But yeah, the footprint on these CD3217s is kind of a pain to work with. And if the surface is not completely flat, or if the chip is just not sitting just right, it will not snap into place. And if you had a traditional footprint, like a more sensical pattern, then this wouldn't happen. And I cannot answer why they would have went with such a weird pattern like this, because like, look at the routing on these traces. You could see how weird it is. It just doesn't make sense why they would do this, other than to, oh, look at us. We're going to work with Texas Instruments and design a chip with a strange footprint for no apparent reason. Just use a normal footprint. What's the deal with this? It could very well be like an anti-repair type thing where they don't want an easy to make stencil. But you know what? Stencils are available for this. Like, very quickly, stencils became available. That's honestly good enough. Gonna get a little flux down again, just a little bit. That's plenty. Spread it out a little bit. Once it heats up, that will go into place nicely. Grab our reballed chip again. And same thing, 430/60. We're going to align this again, close as we can. Looks pretty good. Don't you even dare go out of place, little CD3217. Stay there, stay. You could do it. Good little chip. There we go. See? Life is easier when you obey. We're good to go. So we'll clean up the flux in a minute. Let's see if this works. Alright guys, we have the board back in the enclosure. I just want to show you guys this. So, you can see here we have our USB-C port. This is our master port. This is the port that had the issue. We have a USB mouse plugged in. We do have a light. I'm just going to show you on the screen here. So there's this, our humanized design ultrasonic cleaner profile disguise. The mouse does move. Okay, I'm going to switch back here to my other view. Okay, I'm going to switch this to the other USB-C port. This is the one that we did not touch. This is the CD3218 port. Pop this back up and the mouse still works. So it does look like the CD3217 will work in place of the CD3218. Great to know for the Mac Mini that we're starting to see more and more of these. So mouse fell, but oh well. Thank you for watching. Hope this video helps you in some way. Hope you learned something, and I will see you in the next video.